Okay. So this is just a short recap on the assessments for PAS337 Creative Enterprise. We are going to discuss the 2 assignments in detail, just as a recap so you know exactly what you've been asked to do. We're also going to discuss the criteria for these. I'll show you where the examples of student work are on Canvas. And next week we're going to book one-to-one tutorials so I can have a look at your portfolios. So you've got 2 assignments this module. You've got the individual portfolio that you do on your own on ePortfolio, and it's submitted on the 8th of April via Canvas at 23:59. I've got the instruction videos on how to export your ePortfolio so that it's shareable and so I can see it and mark it with some videos on Canvas. It's worth 70% of the module, so it's a really large chunk of the module, and we'll go over each element for that in a minute. There's also the live brief. It's worth 30%. You've been working on this semester. It's a group assessment. You will get individual marks for this. You've already got your pitch presentation, which we all marked as a group, and then your final group presentation, which is worth 90% of that 30%, is a group presentation, but I will differentiate marks for those people that talk more, have more insightful things to say, so you will get an slightly individualised mark for that. All supporting documents are due on the 13th of May, so if you've got any additional stuff like final outcomes of work that you want to submit and vice versa, and your PowerPoint slides from your presentation, they can all get submitted by the 13th of May. But your group presentation slots will be on the 10th, so the Tuesday, just as we would normally have a session, the 10th of May. In 260 I will give each group a slot, and we will listen to those individually. So let's just go back to the portfolio because that's due in first. We'll just go over exactly what is required in the portfolio. You need to complete the 4 compulsory elements, which are a CV, your skills audit and your areas of improvement, your link to create written profile, which you should have built, and a placement or professional discussion with an industry expert and industry research. Okay, so they're the things you have to do, and then you've got to pick 3 of the others that are most relevant to you. I say most relevant because everybody's career aspirations are different, and therefore everybody's portfolio will look different. It's deliberately done so it could be made as most relevant to your needs and interests as possible. There's no set word count for this because it's mainly that it's set pages, so you should have 7 pages as a minimum. Because it's how long's a piece of string. It might be show reels and things that you're adding, and you can't really attribute a word count to that. So your CV. This is compulsory element number 1. This needs to demonstrate what you learnt from the sessions with Marion, because we did a number of sessions in semester 1 where we analysed CVs. We talked about the order of which the information should be in, what sort of information should be included, what your CV was for, all of that sort of information. If you're an actor, you'll probably have an acting CV which is quite different from a generic one, and I would suggest you submit both, and then you can talk about why they are different. Okay. It is not enough to just upload a CV. I want you to discuss why you have chosen to present your CV in the way that you have. Think about all those things that we discussed with Marion, and I want you to justify the decisions that you have made. Next, compulsory criteria. Skills audit, an area of improvement. You did this in October. Okay, you did the September-October audit. And you gave yourselves grades out of 1 to 5. I want you to do that again. Okay, and compare it to, you've had a whole year now, a whole academic year, to develop your skills. Have you improved any of these? Are you stronger and more confident in some of these areas than you were when you started? I would like you to obviously fill in the other boxes, examples of when you've demonstrated that skill, and what you might need to do to improve that further. Okay, this is an ongoing, lifelong thing, so I think even if you give yourself 5 or something, I'm sure there's still something that you can improve on. There's always something we can improve on. So when you upload this, I also want you to add a bit of text to say how you've just developed your skills this year, what sort of things you have done to challenge yourself and to increase your skills. Okay, every page should have a bit of writing on that introduces the things that are on the page, and talk about what you've learnt from doing that particular task. So what have you learnt about yourself from doing this skills audit? It's really, really important, that reflection. Okay. So I don't just want to see documents dumped on there with no explanation. There needs to be an explanation attached, and everything needs to be labelled clearly. Okay, Create Britain. You all started doing these profiles. I want you to do one of these. I think as well, if you're a Screen Performance student and you have access to Spotlight now, you can also include a Spotlight profile. This is about you getting out there into the big wide world and having an online portfolio, an online presence. Okay, so I'd like everybody to have one of these. Create Britain is free. You do not need to pay for a Create Britain profile. It gives you lots of opportunities to upload video and what have you. So I definitely want you to be on there. I want you to be on that sort of online space to showcase who you are as a creative. Okay, and you might get some work through that. So again, thinking about the things that we discussed, what is your professional artistic identity, and how are you just demonstrating that on the platform? Make sure your images and your examples of the work are the very best ones that you have. This isn't Facebook, this is a professional site for creatives. Okay, I want you to talk about that. How have you constructed your portfolio for that? And the final compulsory element is a placement or a professional discussion. If you're on placement, I know some of you have been lucky enough to secure placements excellence, you might have an activity log or an explanation as to why you chose this particular placement and what you hope to learn from this opportunity. You don't just go and pick a placement because, I'll just do it because then it's ticked off. You've picked that particular place, that particular area of work, that particular organisation or whatever to work in and work with. So it's really important for you to say to me, why have you chosen this? Why is this relevant to you? Why is this a good opportunity? I also expect you to evaluate your experience in detail, what you've learned and what will you take away with you next year. This could be one of many things. It could be you've learned that actually, do you know what? Working in a studio is not for you. Being a stage technician is not for you. And these are the reasons why. Or it could be, actually, I didn't think I would like doing this at all, and I've loved it, found it really interesting, and I'd like to do more of that. and these are the things that I've learned. I need the X and Y qualifications if I want to progress in this area, or I need to upskill in these particular things before I know I can get a job. It's these sort of reflections that are really important. Professional discussion, sort of similar. Why have you chosen to speak to that person you're interviewing? How is their knowledge valuable to you? You've picked that person. They obviously they're doing something that interests you, or they're working in an area that interests you, and you think that their knowledge and experience is valuable. Why? I'd like, if possible, for you to record and transcribe your interview. You've got to ask permission to do that before you do so. And if people aren't comfortable with that, then you have to honour that. Alright? If you can't transcribe it because they don't want to be recorded, that's fine, but you must let me know in your portfolio why that hasn't been transcribed. Okay? It's important ethical procedure for any research that you do. I'd like you to include the questions that you asked, so I know why you've asked them. Why have you chosen to ask that person those questions? And eventually evaluate what you have learned from that discussion. Was that discussion useful? What did you learn? Did it just affirm stuff you already knew? Did it highlight things that you didn't know? Did it change your opinion of certain things or your plan in the future? I want to know, what have you learned? Okay, they were the compulsory elements. Now your choices are things like long-term planning, supporting research. So this could be like, you might want to freelance for the next 5 years, and these are the things you're going to do to become successful as a freelancer. You're going to join this, you're going to join the musicians union, you're going to go to this training courses about tax and finance, you're going to book yourself in for a couple of gigs on these dates, you're going to make a poster and advertise some guitar lessons or whatever. It could be that. Any research that you do, I want you to reference it. This could be researching different courses, it could be researching different unions to join, it could be researching different venues, it could be a lot of things, okay, that they all need referencing. Evidence of a wider online presence. So you might have your own website, you might have started a blog, you might have decided to set up some professional social media platforms. This could be a page where you talk about how you've chosen these different platforms and how are they working to share your creative identity to the world. What is it that you're advertising yourself as? How have you designed your profile to suit that? Number 3, presentation of best work and best skills. So this could be you creating a couple of show reels of your work, or showing the breadth of your work. You might have written music for film, you might also perform in something, you might also do something else. You might write scripts, you might do some camera work, and you might want to showcase all of that. All of these might have links to other sites. Make sure they're all really clearly labelled. You can use images, nice photographs, anything like that to sort of help get a sense, help your reader get a sense of exactly who you are as an artist. Number 4, it could be a business plan or a funding application. You're thinking of doing your own business, like Ariane, who you met the other week. She did a business plan and applied for some business funding as part of this page, and that's how she's got a business up and running. So it could be something really useful like that. It could be going to the digital incubator or the enterprise place and saying, hey, you've got some money for people wanting to set up their own businesses. How do I go about that? and this might be a way of you documenting that process. And finally, job applications or further study applications. Some of you are interested in teaching. If you want to include your teaching application, you can do that here. It might be a personal statement, it might be the research of your different courses that you looked at and why you've chosen the course that you have. Same with job applications. It could be the research that you've done of the company that you've applied to, personal statements and cover letters. It could be anything like that. The important thing for all of this is that you include explanation or a discussion about how this demonstrates your skills, how this helps you move forward with your career plans and what you have learned. By just dumping a load of links on a page that does not tell me anything. Okay, so you need to be very clear and articulate about how this helps you progress your career and how these things are important to you. It's just some other little things. Make it interesting, visually interesting. Include images, embed video. We're visual artists and auditory artists, so please be clear about that and show me stuff. Imagine you're going to hand this portfolio over to a future employer. You want them to see and hear the work that you've been doing. So don't just have a load of text and a load of links. It's just boring. Okay. Label everything so I know exactly what it is. It's not some random document with a random document name and I have no idea whether it's a CV or an application or what. Make sure they're all labelled clearly. ePortfolio has a really crap spell checker, so I advise you to just copy and paste your text into Microsoft Word or into Grammarly and check it all before you finally submit it. Please write formally as though you're going to send this to an employer. Avoid colloquialisms and slang. I don't mind if it's in the first person, but please try your best to keep it as formal as possible. Formal and reflective, ideally. Finally, references. Include references to any external links or videos or anything you've researched. References are majorly important. The criteria that you're being assessed against is professional presentation, reflective writing, goal setting, links to external sources, and considerations for unique selling points, CPD, or any other professional activity. This criteria and the generic assessment criteria you will find on the assignment brief on Canvas, so make sure you have read that and you know exactly what you are being assessed against. Okay, next section, live brief group presentation. You will be presenting this as a group because you've done the work together as a group. You will be given 8 minutes for your presentation, but if there's more than 3 people in a group, you can add 2 minutes on per extra person. So if there's 5 of you, it'll be 8 minutes plus 2 plus 2, 12 minutes. Okay. That's because I want to hear from everyone. Everybody must say something, otherwise it's going to be very hard to assess you and your contribution to the project. Presentations will be on Tuesday the 10th of May. Each group will get a time slot for you to come and do your presentation. Everyone must contribute equally to the presentation, and it would be good if you could agree beforehand who is saying what. And any supporting documents, any evidence, feedback from clients, PowerPoint slides, final work can be submitted on Canvas by the Friday the 13th. I would like you to follow this structure for your presentation. Okay, the criteria are going to be the headings in which you talk about your presentation under. So maybe you'd have a slide per section with an introduction at the beginning as well. So potentially 6 slides. Okay, introduction, ambition and scope, planning, organisation and management, quality, and then finally reflecting upon learning the skills. You might have a few more slides than that, but I'm just saying that should be the general backbone of your presentation. Please include examples of work, images, that sort of thing, but be aware you haven't got forever to do this. The main thing I want to get out of this is, what have you learnt, what have you done, and how successful were you at the criteria. Okay? So, in more detail, ambition and scope. This means, have you been realistic with the scale of the project? Have you had to negotiate its terms with the client? Are you being ambitious enough without overstretching yourself? It's really easy in projects like this to get carried away and promise more than what you are able to deliver. How have you managed to ensure that it's ambitious, but the scope isn't too big? Planning. Did you have a timeline and a deadline, or did you have to agree this with your client, who is in charge of that deadline, making sure that the work is getting done? Did you come up against any challenges, and how did your planning have to change if there were? Not everything is plain sailing, okay? It's your job to problem solve and find ways of completing the work, even if some things have got in the way. How have you done that? Organisation and management. What were the roles for each team member? Who was the main liaison for the client, and how did you manage the expectations of the client along the way? Were meeting minutes taken? How was the team managed? If the client wasn't getting back to you, how did you follow it up? What sort of tone did you use in your correspondence? How did you contact the client? Yeah, that's all about the management of the project and the organisation of the project, and that's really, really important. Quality. Now this is a tricky one. Did you check the requirements of the client? Did you work to the brief? How did you ensure that your product was of a good quality at the end? How could you tell it was what the client had asked for? Did you ask for feedback? Did you submit drafts along the way? Did you have meetings to share the work with the work in progress? How much artistic control did you have? Was the client quite open? Did you find that hard? Or was the client very, very specific and you felt as though you didn't have much of a creative voice? Okay, these are the things I want to know. Finally, your reflection upon what you've learned, how you've developed any skills or the skills that you have used, and the success of the project. This will be different for everyone in your group. Everybody is coming to this from different perspectives and different skill sets. So everybody's answer to this question is probably very different. Okay? Was it easy? Was it hard? Did it require skills from you that you weren't anticipating? What have you learned about working in this way? Is it for you? Is working for clients as a freelancer something that you don't think you could do? Was it scary? Because it's the first time you've done something like this. What might you have done differently to make the project more successful? Would you have managed the scale of the project a little bit better? Would you have communicated with your client a little bit better? Would you have challenged some of your teammates to be more productive, perhaps? All these things, okay? And these things aren't just unique to the fact that you're a university student doing this in a module. These are the sort of things that will flag up whatever creative project you do outside of university when you graduate. So, they're not just because you're a group of students working together. That there's lots of reasons why things happen, and a lot of the time they're out of your control. But how did you manage that? How did you ensure that despite all those challenges, you created a successful product that was what the client had asked for? Okay. That's those things. If we go into Canvas, and we have a look there. I'll show you where. So, assignment portal down here, individual portfolio, final project presentation. You will see for both of these what the criteria is, what you've been asked to do, what the generic assessment criteria is. Are you ticking all of these boxes? 5 points means first class, and so on and so forth. Okay. Same with the group presentation. Again, criteria. So the criteria is there. If we go into units, and you go into week 1, you will see examples of previous student work for their individual portfolios. Okay, Ariane, who you met the other day, Ariane's is there. Have a look at those for inspiration for yours, but just be warned that they put their live brief information on their portfolios rather than doing a presentation, so the assignment has changed slightly. So you will not have your live brief on your individual portfolio this year, because last year we couldn't do presentations and things because of COVID, so that's why that's changed. But they are some really good examples of varying grades, some firsts, some 2-1s, some 2-2s. There isn't a third on there. Okay, well, I suggest you have a look at that. Next week we will do 1-to-1 tutorials. I will put them in an announcement as a doodle poll for you to sign up, and I will put this video and the stuff also in week 7 for you all. Just to remind you that anything about postgraduate study, I've put loads of links on there for you, and John's stuff from Freelancing in the Arts is on there with the example invoice, because a couple of you were asking for that. Right. So that's everything from me. This PowerPoint will be up on Canvas along with the video. Take your time to listen to it, take your time to check. If you've got any questions, please send me a message either via email or on Teams, but don't use Canvas Messenger because it doesn't work for me. I never get the notifications, and I will be happy to help. Okay, see you next week in tutorials.